Today, we're at the new urban farm in North Carolina, and we are making a place for wine cap mushrooms, right?
Indeed. We're going to inoculate.
We're going to inoculate. This is Christian. Hello, Christian.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going great. This is going to be fun. I went and got 2 cubic yards of hardwood chips. That's what we're looking at here. And so what are we going to do?
Well, we're basically gonna, I like to kind of think of it as lasagna layers. So we're gonna spread the mulch. We'll do like a bottom layer of mulch, sprinkle some spawn on top, another layer of mulch, some more spawn on top, and then another layer of mulch.
Oh,
about
nice.
4 inches thick.
Okay, good.
And that will be, the food source for the mycelium.
Perfect. So this is a perfect place for it, right about where you're standing.
Yeah, this is great. With the shade from like the dappled light from the trees. And this is a nice area if you think about moisture levels in water, because when it rains, this will get pretty well moistened.
Right, because the water's coming off the hill, kind of down the slope.
So hopefully like pretty low maintenance after we do the initial inoculation.
Perfect.
It'll do its thing, hopefully.
Excellent. All right, well, let's get on it. We have our first layer of about 1.5 inches, and this is 64 square feet. And what do you have there, Christian?
This is the wine cap spawn. This is sawdust spawn, so essentially just sawdust with the mycelium kind of growing all over it. I don't know if you can see it that well, but you can see the individual strands of mycelium kind of in there.
Oh yeah, nice.
So we grow this in my lab, and
yay!
We'll just kind of break it up. We're gonna try and like not touch it with our hands as much as possible.
Okay.
We're putting it out into the environment, of course, so this is absolutely not a sterile process, but just giving it its best chance of success.
Yeah.
So I'll break it up first in the bag, and then we'll just kind of spread it as evenly as we can.
Nice. So, and we're going to put down a layer of woody mulch, and then we're going to put some woody mulch on top of it, and then put down another layer, right?
Exactly.
So we've got 4 bags. So I guess we'll spread 2 bags, and then put some woody mulch over it, and then 2 more bags and more woody mulch over it.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Cool.
And you said you grew this in your lab?
I did.
What's that about?
So we have a small spawn lab that we can grow the spawn. It's a sterile lab. So this is like kind of just, another step up of technicality in terms of mycology cultivation techniques. I would say like this application that we're doing right here in like kind of that allows you to have mushrooms in your garden is what I consider like low tech. But I think it's a great way to like get into mushroom growing. You do need to start with the spawn. So this is something that you would have to acquire from,
a grower or a lab somewhere.
Someone with a lab like myself.
Good.
And yeah, the lab setting is great for like my level of interest, because the other like something that is my favorite about it, we can actually use sterile technique to capture local genetics of fungi that are specifically adapted to their very, very local environment. So, for example, if you start getting wine caps fruiting up in this patch right here, which you're going to have that happening, you could harvest one of the mushrooms and just take a piece of the tissue of the mushroom, take it to the lab, put it into a petri dish, and you've got mycelium growing, and then you've got the local genetics of something that has adapted to your specific conditions right here.
Nice.
So that's just like an example of, some of the things that having a lab allows.
That's called epigenetics, I believe, in seeds.
Yes, exactly. It's a great, one of these like really cool concepts that it works with fungi, works with plants, that I think is just a great way of teaching about how important it is to like have very local cultivation, very like community oriented type of food systems. So yeah.
I'm all about that. All right, so you broke the bag up. We showed that a minute ago, and we're just gonna pour it out. I'm gonna get my hands on a bag here in a minute. And,
Cool.
all right, so let's do it.
A little sprinkling. So yeah, I'll just kind of sprinkle it as evenly as possible throughout. And if there's like big clumps still, I'll probably just go down and break them up really fast by hands.
All right.
But otherwise,
all right.
Pretty simple technique here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got our last 2 bags here.
Yes.
We've already put 2 bags down.
Yes.
And then covered them with a couple inches of woody mulch. This is hardwood woody mulch. And I'm just scrunching up the bag.
Break it up a good bit, get all of those little individual strands of mycelium. Basically, it does help it to spread when you actually break it up, because you're kind of breaking up the individual threads of mycelium. And so that process kind of like encourages them to, like, when you break them up, they want to grow again.
Want to grow more.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's open that bag up. There looks to be a lot of mycelium in that bag.
Definitely. It's quite thick. So let's see if I can we got some nice strands in there. You can see those like individual thick ropey strands of mycelium. The wine cap, this is pretty typical of the wine cap to create these thick strands. They're actually called rhizomorphs, which the mycelium is microscopic, so the rhizomorph is essentially the mycelium kind of threading, twisting around itself to create like a rope-like structure. And with the wine cap, you can use that to kind of monitor how good your patch is doing.
Oh yeah.
By digging down into the wood chips and
looking for that rope. All right.
Exactly.
So we're gonna spread the second batch.
And I do like to leave a little buffer on the edge. I don't always sprinkle it all the way up to the edge.
Cool. Make sure we get it all.
Get every last bit.
All right, here, I'll take that.
Thank you.
Oh.
Just break up the clumps a little bit.
And then just sprinkle on top.
Sprinkle on top. Grab a shovel.
And you don't want to get this too thick, right?
Correct. About 4 inches. We're shooting for about 4 inches thick. If you pile too much material on top of the spawn, it could suffocate it. It does need a little bit of that oxygen flow.
All right. So we're going to have extra woody mulch.
A little bit extra. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Maybe one more here. All right, and we'll come and put some water on this a little later today.
Give it a good soaking. And I'm just looking for like anywhere that I see a little bit exposed. I tend to be a perfectionist sometimes about this, but if the mycelium, you do want it totally covered up because it can just dry out if it's not covered.
All right. So tell me about your business and where to find you.
So my business is called Closed Loop Lab. We are located in Weaverville, North Carolina, and we primarily grow spawn currently. We really like working with local genetics, so doing a lot of cloning of things that we either find in the wild, or in this case, when y'all get wine caps fruiting, we can take one of those mushrooms, take a piece of tissue, put it in a petri dish, clone it. So really, really like working with that local perspective. And
local genetics.
Local genetics.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we also are very interested in just generally like land regenerative practices, building soil health, and helping local landowners and homesteaders to get mushrooms growing in their spread the spores, you know, and yeah, just share the abundance. I would say wine caps specifically, mushrooms in general, I think are very generous. Wine caps can be immensely generous. They can provide so much food.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we got our woody mulch down and our spawn down. It's the beginning of October. What should we expect, Christian?
So the mycelium's going to take a little bit to colonize. It's got to get itself established before it produces its fruit, which is the mushroom. So you will want to keep this well hydrated. The wood chips usually hold a good amount of moisture if you give it a good soaking initially. So we're gonna soak it now, and then just monitor how dry or how wet it feels throughout the season. It will take, you're gonna have an initial waiting period before you start to see mushrooms. So it's possible that they could fruit in the spring, not guaranteed in the spring. The next, fruiting season would be in the fall. So
we're a year out.
A year, yeah.
Maybe some in the spring, but a year out. And for a 64 square foot area, how much should I expect?
Yeah, that's a good question. It can be a little hard to estimate because there's a lot with mushroom cultivation. There can be a lot of variables. So I've seen a good amount of variability. I would say, so the wine caps themselves are pretty big. I compare them kind of to portobellos.
Oh, nice.
They're pretty hardy. Like, I would say this is pretty large, but like the biggest that I've seen is about that for a cap size. And something like that. That's definitely on the larger side, but something like that could be like 5 pounds itself, because they're just like, they hold a lot of water. But I would say I don't know, hopefully you would get maybe 40 pounds from here in a flush, something like that.
And it'll go season over season. So multiple years?
Yes, hopefully. Again, there's all the variables, so I can't tell you 100% anything.
I understand.
I've seen patches that I've inoculated go for about 3 years is like where you would then, after that time, you would then maybe want to go back and add some more mulch, maybe reinvigorate the spawn, add a little more spawn. You'll start to see after a few subsequent seasons where they've fruited, you'll start to see the substrate, the wood chips, break down a good bit. So that's another thing to monitor, is how much those wood chips are getting broken down. They'll eventually turn to dirt. So that's just, it'll run out of food.
So is it a good idea to take some of this extra woody mulch that we've got here and spread it?
Yeah.
Maybe in the spring?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe in the spring once it starts going. And the other really cool thing that I love about getting a wine cap patch started on your own land is that then if it really gets going, it's established itself, it's happy, you dig down, you can see the mycelium in there, you can take a scoopful of that mulch and go spread it in other beds, and you'll be inoculating other beds. So
nice.
You can kind of exponentially increase, if you take care of it and you want it to keep propagating, you can, hopefully it will never run out. There's always, I've seen things like really dry period happens and someone goes out of town and then their mycelium kind of gets dehydrated.
Got it.
That can happen, but
all right. Well, awesome. Thank you for helping us today.
Yeah, of course.